Hey guys, welcome to the vlog, welcome to the studio on a Sunday here, because still constructing the A studio, blocks all around filled with absorption. I'm like 20% in, like the gray blocks are the ones done, fabric around, absorbing material in, and there's still a lot more to go. But I already arranged everything where it's supposed to be. Couch in the back, table here, another table here, sweet spot over there. Speakers maybe built into the wall. And today's an important day. Today's the day where I'm the first time measuring at the sweet spot the frequency response of this room, which will give me an idea of what it will sound like at the end, because there's already some absorption in here. I'm very excited. And a lot of people ask me if all of that effort is actually worth it. If it's actually necessary to have an acoustically treated room, how much it changes the sound, how much it changes the music you make at the end, because that's like the main goal. Because there are a lot of misconceptions people have and some very not logical thinking. So measuring and explaining why this is actually needed. And if you should do the same to your studio, if it's actually worth it, because acoustic treatment is complicated, expensive, transforms the room by a lot. And yeah, let's get started.
Can't help but take it farther. I'm breathing underwater.
The first measurement is done, of course, with a measurement microphone at the sweet spot. I've taken like 38% in as a starting point, but the sweet spot might change depending on where it sounds the best. I could move closer or a little more back depending on the room modes. And the first measurement looks quite all right. We have a problem at 35 Hertz and a quite big cancellation of frequencies at 113 Hertz. And just to give you an impression, because again, a lot of people ask me if it's worth it. I want to give you an example so that you can tell it yourself. Let's generate a test tone with 113 Hertz, and I will use this camera with the microphone attached to it to let you listen what it sounds like. This won't translate 100%, but I think you'll get the idea. So let's hit it up. Sine wave, that's the best wave, 113. Okay. I'll move you now to this position right here. I hope that mic is even able to pick up 113. I don't know. Let's now move a little back because we have this huge dip at 113. That's like a 5, 6, 7, 8 dB increase just by moving back half a meter. That was actually really stupid because I can just record what that mic is picking up. So let's do this again. A little more scientific. Sweet spot. It's a lot more over here. Almost gone. I think that proves the point that rooms will fuck your frequency response by a lot. It's the biggest factor of what you actually hear. You can buy very, very expensive speakers in the wrong room, in an untreated room. It will just sound like shit. So priority for you making your studio first is like, of course, your computer and learning the DAW and everything. But if you spend 2,000 on speakers, spend at least as much on room acoustics. Those should be equal parts. I would even say a bad speaker in a good room is still better than a good speaker in a bad room, because you won't have anything of it. There's one thing I would love to try out really quick, and that is measure again with more of that absorbing material in here. I will leave it in the package. There is foil around. I know it's not perfect, but it will show me even closer what the sound in this room will be like, and also give you an idea how much absorption will help by how much. Because right now we have like maybe 25% of absorption here in this room, and I'll bring in now all of the other packages to make it 80%. think, well, we doubled the amount of absorption. Ceiling is still entirely missing. Floor is just not possible. I need to walk on it. And also here the front wall with the speakers isn't done. Well, let's test it again. Another measurement. The second measurement is already a lot better. It's crazy how much, like, putting 10 packages of that absorbing stuff in here. And again, like, this is not the final, like, these need to be put out of their foil and they will expand more and have different properties, absorbing properties, than being like squished like this. And of course the ceiling, not done yet, and that's like a huge factor. The high increase at 30 Hertz is less, and the 113 Hertz is almost gone entirely. If you like check back and forth, the room modes might change again slightly depending on how thick that front wall will be, but that's too complicated for me. An acoustician is coming this week and he will do everything again way more precisely, but we're on a really good path. Like, this measurement already is a lot better than in the B studio downstairs. So from now on I could actually start working in here. And if we check, like, the RT60 looks pretty good, at least up until 200 Hertz. And also the waterfall graph looks decent, like nothing really jumping out except for the 30 Hertz, around 86 Hertz. But while testing, I heard like a big rumble coming from the door. So I'll check that, because there's still things resonating in here. And I need to find out which ones and dampen them more than everything else. But yeah, that's like what the room sounds like at the moment. There's still a lot more to do to get it to as perfect as possible with the room measurements, because that's always what's restricting you the most. And now actually back to that initial question, do you need to treat your room? Because the one argument I saw a lot in the comments, like every 10th person was like, why should I treat my room? The people that will listen to that music don't have a room like that. So you're creating a song in an environment where no one will listen to it, which might sound logical first, but it's absolutely not. I always compare it to like your computer monitor being calibrated, color accurate. Let's say you're making a movie, like a big Hollywood movie, and you're color correcting the picture. You want to do that in an environment that is as close to ideal as possible, so that you as an artist can judge what kind of color schemes to use and what kind of mood to create. Even if every person that will watch it somewhere else on a monitor that might turn up the brightness, the contrast. Some TVs have sport mode, cinema mode, which just looks horrible. You want to make sure that the place where you create it is in the middle of everything else. Every other speaker, every other monitor will be a little bit different. You cannot predict that. There is no way to make on Spotify a mix you should listen to in the car, a mix you should listen to in the club, a mix you should listen to at home, and then like for every room, space, dimension, another mix. That's just not possible. So you go for the average, for the ideal, and that's like a studio with a very low reverb time across all of the frequencies with a flat frequency response. That's an environment where you can actually judge as an artist 100% what you're doing. If a mix in that room sounds good, it should also sound good in all other environments, because all other environments are deviating from that perfectness. So if you make it in a room that is accurate, all of the change outside on other speakers will be the same change. If you make a song in a room that is not acoustically treated, and for example, you decide to have a reverb on the snare, and let's say 1.2 seconds reverb time. You might think that's all right, it sounds good, because your room is not treated and you also hear the room reverb, so you actually don't hear that 1.2 seconds, you hear it plus whatever your room does, plus the frequency shift. And if you then listen to it, and you probably, if you're a producer, know that, if you then listen to it somewhere else, it sounds like shit. And that's happening because you're working in a room where you can't judge what you're doing. Since I'm working like downstairs in the B studio and we like improved the acoustics, I don't have that anymore. I can sit there, make a song, and it just works, which saves me a ton of time. So the second you get to a point where you make music professionally and it's like your job and you make money with it, think about acoustically treating your place as much as possible, at least as much as your speakers cost. And I think as an artist, that's kind of my duty to like have my full artist intent in a song. And if a room changes that, it's not anymore what I actually wanted. So that's one of many reasons why I'm building this entire place. And like having this middle place, this perfect place to start and create will balance it out on all other systems. Let's say someone listens to it on a phone. This will sound bad, but I cannot sit in a room and produce for a phone because it will then sound like shit in a club. So having this studio standard environment is what has proven to be the right thing for like mixing, mastering. Yes, of course, if you're mostly producing and not like doing all of the technical things, you pay someone to do it or you don't really care about it, then you won't need a room like that. It's really up to you. I mean, today you just heard how much this can actually change at certain frequencies. I can only highly recommend to get Room EQ Wizard. It's like a free software to measure your room. Even if you don't have a measurement mic, just go to the generator and go through the frequencies and walk around the room. You'll hear how much it changes. It's extreme. I personally, and that's like the honest main reason for building this room, I did a measurement downstairs in the B studio and I had at 130 Hertz an 8 dB drop. And I had this one song where I was working on and it played a bass line, same note, and then the last note variation was like up and hit 130 Hertz. So it was a lot lower than the rest of the bass line. So I started compressing the bass line to make them more equal. I started EQing that one frequency that was lower and then listened to it at another studio and I was like, why is that bass note jumping out like crazy? Why is it like so in your face, so much louder than the rest? Then I did the measurement in the room and figured out I was hearing it wrong in the room and it affected my decisions in music making. I compressed the bass line because I thought like certain notes were jumping out that weren't jumping out. And by compressing it, I just compressed it for no reason and then EQ'd it again for no reason. Had a lot more work, was worried why it didn't translate on other systems. So that's like a real world scenario why you should, if you can, and if you make money with it, invest into your room acoustics. I can just highly recommend it. It's like a day and night difference. And I still know a lot of people say, no, I would just use headphones. I don't care. Music is about making music and inspiration and the right melodies, the right lyrics. And yes, that's true. Music comes first. But I want to be able to make an entire song from start to finish myself, and every little decision in there, every 0.5 dB up or down at a certain point, I want it to be my decision and that I actually know what I'm doing. And this right here will help me to do so. And yeah, the rest of the day, more measurements, trying to find like another sweet spot that might work, maybe tilt the speakers a little, move them back and forth. Like there's a lot of testing involved, a lot of back and forth, unfortunately, but that's the only way you will get closer to ideal. If you're interested in the entire building process of the studio, down below is like a playlist with like the first day planning, constructing these blocks, filling them, the absorbing material, how to build absorbers, and the next part is probably building the floor. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. Also, my sample pack is linked in the description. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's just $5, a bunch of gigabytes, plus for the next week, all of the old sample packs included as well. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow again here in the studio.
Feel like we could fly tonight, straight into the dark.